time. I hope you have enjoyed Fintechs and, yes, the bit of music we brought to you there. Friends and Family by Barry Alvin. And, of course, we listened to Mariah Carey's I Still Believe. Okay, it's time for us to delve into our major discuss today. And like I told you earlier on, before my guest came, I told you we'll be talking about the impact of pro bono services on access to justice. Access to justice should be a right for every Nigerian. No one should be denied of justice because, first of all, even before it's a man-made law, it is a natural thing that God has impacted on every human. You have some rights. Everybody has a right. Nobody just tramples on the right of other people, except, of course, when we used to live in the state of nature. But right now, we have civilization, and so people deserve to have justice when those rights are trampled on. And with me today in the studio is Kenechukwu Agwu of the PPDC. Kenechukwu, how are you doing?
Very fine.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yes, and thank you for coming over to talk to us about some of the work you guys are doing. So, first of all, I'd like to say, explain to us, what pro bono services are and why it's important in the context of justice.
All right, thank you very much. First, is important to state that pro bono services do not only refer to legal services. Pro bono services refers to any service that you carry out free of charge. So pro bono is actually the short form of the longer version, which is pro bono publico, which is free of charge for the interest of the common good. Free of charge for the interest of the public, free of charge for the public. So when we talk about pro bono services, we're talking about rendering your services without a pay or rendering your services free of charge.
Yeah.
But the key thing that we should note is that it's for the interest of the public good. So for instance, some persons like me in the past has argued that there is nothing like pro bono, which is to say there is no free lunch even in Freetown. So, which means whereas it is someone is receiving it at no cost, some other person is paying for it.
Exactly.
So my idea or my context in that is just to say, whereas, for instance, for legal services that are free, the clients are receiving it for free, but the lawyer is actually paying for it, or there is somebody who is funding it.
Yes.
So it's actually not free in that context. But that is what pro bono services are about. And then in the context of justice, you will agree with me that a lot of Nigerians, okay, let's even do a little bit of maths, for instance.
Okay.
Last week, Friday, last weekend, Saturday, Sunday, there was the election for the new president of the Nigerian Bar Association.
Yes.
And the Electoral Committee tells us that they had initially accredited about 70,000 lawyers to vote, which means that in actual sense, we have at least 70,000 lawyers.
At least,
yeah. Of course, for you to be eligible, it means you've paid bar practicing.
Yeah, bar practicing.
So
fee,
just to say, and your branch dues. So just to say that those who are qualified to practice for this year are 70,000. Now, how many Nigerians do we have? What's the population of Nigeria?
No, according to what we have and we're using, we're over 200 million.
So by the time you divide the 200 million by 70,000, you see that our citizens to lawyer ratio is actually very small.
Extremely.
And out of this 70,000, I can tell you that about 70% of us are in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano.
Oh, yes.
And Kaduna. So what happens to the state? What happens to the local government? What happens to the local areas? In my community, for instance, we have a police station. In my local government, we have 3 major communities and we have 3 major three major police stations, rather. And they're not about, in the entire local government, we don't have about 4 lawyers who are practicing there.
Okay, you mean in your own way?
Yes. Where I come from. So you're not looking at it, and I pretty much want to believe it's the same with every other rural community. People don't want to live in the villages. So a lot of people, but there is a police there. So people come into justice almost on a daily basis, and there is nobody to release to represent them. So you will agree with me that for people to attain access to justice, for people to have a more open justice system, a lot of people need to do this work free of charge. And when we talk about the need, again, you look at economics, demand and supply. When
yes.
the demand is more, the price eventually goes up. So how many people are able to afford legal services in Nigeria? Oh, you can mention, okay, there is a legal aid, right? The Legal Aid Council established by the Legal Aid Act of 2011. Now, that act says you are entitled to free legal services from the council if your annual minimum, if your annual income is not above the national minimum wage.
Okay.
As we speak today, the national minimum wage is still 30,000.
Yes.
Yes, though we know the Senate had passed that, but it hasn't been assented to yet. So
Definitely.
just imagine that if the money you make in the whole year is more than 30,000, the council cannot provide legal services for you. And how many lawyers do we even have in the council? So you begin to see that there is need for these people, for lawyers to actually provide pro bono services so that a lot more Nigerians could have access to justice.
Well, I mean, it's a very noble thing to have that sort of thing. And like you said, I like the fact that you're stressing that. It's really true. There's nothing that's absolutely free. Because if it is coming to you free, it is at the cost, or it has a cost implication for someone who has to make the sacrifice, who has to stretch and, do the needful to ensure that somebody else is comfortably getting or accessing justice. Now, what's the importance of this pro bono services, in order to bridge that gap for people accessing legal services?
So I give you two instances, right? We go to, as we speak at the moment, we have about 253 lawyers who have volunteered to work with us across different states to provide pro bono services on our project.
253.
Yes, at the moment. And we are also calling on lawyers who might be listening to us, who are interested to reach us. You can send us an email, a2j@ppdc.org, so that we can follow it up. But why did I need to give that number? We look at a situation where there are people who are in prison, and they are in prison because there was nobody to represent them. They are in prison because they couldn't afford, we usually call it the 3 Bs.
Yeah.
It's either you can't afford the barrister, you can afford the bail, or you cannot afford the barrister. Oh, no, I said barrister,
bail, bribe.
Barrister, bribe, and bail. So those are the 3 Bs, right? That can keep people long in detention. So, and that was why the Administration of Criminal Justice Act provides a section that says, look, for anybody who is arrested, for your statement to be taken, your lawyer has to be present. Someone of your choice, a lawyer, an NGO, a civil society, or anybody of your choice.
Yeah.
So to bridge that gap also at PPDC, we have 50 lawyers, young lawyers who have been assigned to 50 police stations across 5 states.
Okay.
And their duty is to make sure that every person who is arrested, who is about to make a statement, has a lawyer present. The impact of that cannot be overemphasized. One is that it reduces the chances that they will be forced to make statements that are not true.
Okay. Yeah, because you have the presence
if there is someone, if there is someone there with you, you are likely not going to torture anybody. So it also has an impact on torture.
Yeah.
Again, very importantly, it also helps the police with their work. So because each time we go to the police, this statement was obtained non-voluntary. I was forced to make this statement. And then the court goes into what we call trial within trial, which again delays the time. The trial within trial is like a full trial. So it also takes the time of the court. But with the lawyer present, you have fulfilled that provision of the law and saves the court and the society and saves us time and money for going through that whole long process, and shortens the duration that somebody stays before he knows the end of his case. So the services of pro bono lawyers cannot be overemphasized, honestly. Pro bono lawyers provide these services in addition to the work they are doing. So it's not like, okay, that's their full-time job, no. But the PDSs, that's the duty solicitors, that's the full-time job they have for 1 year. So we have young lawyers, some are serving NYSC lawyers, while others are people, young lawyers who are volunteered
volunteering
to
too.
work with us for that 1 full year.
That's
that is their job for that 1 year duration. But the pro bono lawyers are working with law clinics to make sure that people who are being held pre-trial and people who do not have access to justice have legal representation at least.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it's wonderful seeing what the PPDC, I don't know, is this done in collaboration with other CSOs, or you guys are just, taking the lead in carrying on these services?
All right. So we have some partners that we are in what we call the A2J consortium. But the current project that I've mentioned is just PPDC doing it. There are a lot of other people doing similar things, which is why we have now come together to form that consortium so that we can hear about what others are doing, learn from their mistakes, and then learn from us. But we have a lot of partnerships and MOUs with different civil societies.
So what are some of the, tell us about some of the projects you've embarked on them. I mean, apart from, stationing lawyers in police stations and stuff like that, what are some of the major projects, and what are the success rates that you've achieved in the course of this? All
right. So our Access to Justice programming at PPDC has 3 major arms.
Okay.
The first is the Court Administration and Case Management Project. Okay. So we tend to look at justice holistically. We look at it from the courts, we look at the people, and then we look at systems. So from the Court Administration and Case Management Project, CACM project, we've been able to digitize courts in 3 states. Nasarawa, Plateau, and Kaduna states. Okay. Pilot courts, by the way, 4 courts, 5 courts in different states. What does that digitization do? It means that the judges no longer need to write longhand. So there is a speech-to-text device, there's a recording device, there is a video recording and playback device. So in fact, a judge said to us, there was this senior lawyer who came to court and said that what I have in my record is not what he said. We simply just had to play back.
Okay.
Now, what we have also done is to digitize the recording system, the filing processes. Now, what it does is that the chief judge of Plateau State, for instance, tells us that before our project on the Plateau, that to file an appeal, the cases stays at least 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Because before they could trace the record of appeal and all of that, it takes 4 to 5 months. But that with our project now, it takes just 4 minutes.
That's
4
amazing.
minutes. So you can see shortening the gap from 4 to 5 months to just 4 minutes. So we also created what we call the secretarial pools. So when we went into the states, we discovered that the magistrates, basically, we are going to public business centers to print rulings of court, to print court processes, to look at court processes and all of that. And we thought to say, no, look, these processes are confidential documents. Imagine where a magistrate gives his judgment to a business person to type. And the person is typing it and says that maybe that case is his cousin or his brother or his boyfriend or his girlfriend or something. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. There
so what we did was to create a secretarial pool where we have clusters of magistrate courts. So the court staff can just walk in, use the services there. Again, what else have we done? We supported in the deployment of tools. We've trained judges, we've trained magistrates, we've trained lawyers. We have about 275 law students who are providing pro bono services as well across the 5 states where we are working in. And we are in Adamawa, Plateau, Nasarawa, Kaduna, FCT, and we're doing a little bit of work in Lagos as well, looking to expand to other states in the coming days.
That's quite commendable. But one would think, or one would say, isn't that too much for a project for you guys to carry? Because judiciary in itself is funded by the government and stuff like that, I mean, so yes, you set the example by initiating this. Isn't it something that government should take seriously and, take the lead in this? Because it sounds quite capital intensive. So
that's one area that we're working on. And that's why I said in those states we've just done pilot courts.
Okay.
They are called pilots because we want the government to see that this is doable.
This is doable,
to see that this can work. And we now call them to take over.
Because I know, sorry to butt in, for the longest of time, this thing about judges, like not having to do this longhand, it can be very stressful.
Yep.
You know, I mean, early days when I did a bit of practice, as in most of the times that what's your name? Okay, you know, you have to wait and you're counting your words. So it makes it so long, and then you probably have 20 cases waiting to be heard. Some is for hearing, some is for this and that, you know, different things. So I mean,
we had a judge who retired voluntarily from the Federal High Court. I think she retired at 63, 65. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
But she still had like 3, 4, 5 years before her retirement age. And she retired. When she was speaking, she said that she was scared of Parkinson's. Because most of the judges, when they retire, can no longer use their hands.
Because
and that tells you the health hazards involved in this process.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot, right? And like we said, it's a pilot. We are looking that states would take on this and then come in and consider. But we have enjoyed full cooperation from the states. We've also seen commitment in some instances. The chief judges have given us offices in those states free of charge, and we have received tremendous support from them. But we are calling on the executive, really, who are the people with the money, to look this way. So it's one thing to budget a thing, and it's another that is even coming. But we are happy that even, for instance, money for data, money for SMS is now being budgeted in some of the states where we are working in. So we are glad it's been budgeted. We are also monitoring to ensure that comes to implementation, really.
That's a great one, honestly. It's very heartwarming to hear what you guys are doing. Now, for me, when I think about people who are denied access to justice, when I wrote my project, I worked with prisoners, you know, trying to assess basically how much of this justice they're able to assess, you know, who are the guys who are waiting. I mean, do you have a project like that, working with prisoners? Then another vulnerable group of people that I know are women who have domestic violence. I mean, we can begin to count some of them. So which of these groups are you engaging, and how do you plan to expand for it to reach not everybody? You can't do everything for everybody, but then basically tell us about that too.
So the second arm of our project is what we call the Reforming Pretrial Detention in Nigeria project.
Okay.
And it's good to point out here that the first two projects, the CACM project and ROPDM project, are funded by the U.S. government through the Bureau of International Narcotics, Drugs and Law Enforcement Affairs, INL. Okay. So the ROPDM project is basically focused on supporting the government of Nigeria to ensure that there is a reform in the use of pretrial detention, in the overuse of pretrial detention. At the moment, we have about 70% of our population in the prison are waiting trial.
Yes.
People who have not gone to trial.
Yeah.
So we are providing legal services using the pro bono lawyers that I've talked about, using the law clinicians that I've talked about. At the moment, we've been able to secure across the 3 states, across our 5 states, we've been able to secure releases. We've been able to...
Okay, sorry, I will just have to stop you because we have a quick commercial. Let's take it, and then we'll be right back with our conversation.
Right after this. Connection established.
Hi everyone, my name is Swat. That's the name my father gave me, but you can always call me Her Vocal Majesty. I'm the host of The Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info. It takes place every weekday, noon to 3 p.m., where we get to have all the lovely contemporary conversations. If your days are normally long and gloomy, well, not anymore, because I'm here to make it all bright and sunny for you. So join me. It's an invitation. You don't want to miss out.
95.1 Nigeria Info.
All right, thank you so much for being here. Kenechukwu Agwu of the PPDC, that's the Public Private Development Center, joins me today as we talk about access to pro bono legal service, in ensuring or enhancing access to justice. And you were, you just started answering my question about the various groups and what you're working on.
Yes, really. So, working with pretrial detainees at the moment, at the various states, we have interviewed and taken in the following numbers of inmates. Their cases in Nasarawa, we have interviewed and taken on 144 inmates. In Adamawa, we have 138 inmates. In FCT here, we have taken on 37 cases. In Plateau, we've taken on 86 cases. In Kaduna, we've interviewed 284 detainees across the various custodial centers who are there. In Nasarawa, we've had court appearances in 54 cases, in FCT 10 cases. But in terms of people who have really gotten out with our system, in Nasarawa, we have discharged 7.
Oh, that's
We've
good.
gotten their cases discharged, and 4 have been granted bail. They're in the process of perfecting their bail processes. In Adamawa, 17 have been granted bail. 8 have been discharged and acquitted, and 2 have been convicted. Someone will ask, why would I give that number? For us, that conviction is a plus because it means you had your day in court and you know that you are not serving your terms. And one of them should be out in a few weeks because they had actually spent this long time there. And in Plateau, 3 have been granted bail. In FCT, 1 has been granted bail and 1 has been discharged just yesterday. So this is just what we've done in the last 1 month when we started active pro bono legal representation for pretrial detainees across the states.
Okay, so those are the and that's, is it going to stop at that, or do you plan to expand on the vulnerable groups that you're reaching out to?
So while we are also working with people who are incarcerated, we are also looking at people who are the key population, people who have in the prisons, in the custodial centers, we're looking at issues around health as well. So we're looking at, do we have people who have HIV, who are in the prison, how are they being treated and all of that. So we're looking at the health system. So we also have a gender mainstreaming in what we are doing, and that's exactly what we are doing with Lagos. So we're looking at Lagos in the sense of what's our population of women who are in pre-trial detention and working around that. But our justice programs is actually open to, the various groups, the various vulnerable groups. At the moment, we are picking on pre-trial detainees to start with, and we're also looking at women who are incarcerated and who are at the risk of incarceration. That is, those who have been arrested at the police stations, who our publicity solicitors are also providing services.
That's
for.
interesting. I mean, is this program open to, first of all, lawyers who are interested in volunteering to be pro bono lawyers? And also, what about people who feel, I need the services, I need PPDC service, because this is what can they reach out to you or something?
Definitely. For the lawyers, we initially had an open call for people to volunteer, then we trained them. Shortly, we may be opening the call again just to, accommodate more states and allow more people to join, because we believe that we can only work with you when we've trained you, just to be sure that we know that you understand the ethics of providing pro bono services and all of that. So shortly we'll be opening that up, but they can as well reach out to us to indicate their interest. And for people who belong to these vulnerable groups who require legal services, sure, they're very well able to reach out to us, either walking in physically to any of our state offices and our national office here in Abuja, or even just sending us an email or even a phone call across to us will also be good.
All right. Okay, so I mean, if you have questions, if you have comments to throw in the conversation this afternoon, as we look at this amazing work that the PPDC is doing with regards to access to justice, and of course giving pro bono services, you can call and you can contribute on 0700 951 0000. and 08095974869. Our WhatsApp handle is 08099930137. And we're streaming live on our Facebook page on Nigeria Info 95.1 and on YouTube. Nigeria Info 95.1 Abuja. You will have access. You can drop your comments. You can drop your thoughts. And Mr. Agwu is still here with me, just in case you have things you want him to address. Hello. Hello. Okay, I think the phone line is not functioning or something. I don't know. All right. Just use the WhatsApp. Mr. Agwu, have we left out on any other area that probably we need to touch? And I probably didn't ask you the question. Any other information you want to tell us with regards to this?
Okay, so just to add that, we are calling on every member of the society, private Nigerians, corporate Nigerians, to not only leave the issues of access to justice to government and to development partners.
Yeah.
We are calling on everybody to become a development partner. Your 1 naira, your 2 naira will go a long way. We started the book drive, trying to get books for people who are in prison to help them, read, to give them access to education while they are there, to also enable them to read and all of that. So please kindly reach out to us if you have books you want to donate or you want us to come talk to you more on what we are doing to get you to partner with what we are doing.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Barrister.
Yes.
Double Barrister, good afternoon to both of you. Barrister Swat and Barrister Agwu, this is Agwu Media colleague.
Welcome.
Thank you, my sister. My question goes to this guy. This pro bono opportunity. Did you people do it for all those who are losing our money? According to you, lawyer, used allegedly. Did you people do it to them? Why do I ask? A lot of you people know that they did it, but you stand for them. Some of them look at the former Minister of Aviation. The judge is trying to put him in prison for some days to adjourn the case. But the barrister that stand for him plead on his behalf, and they gave him a pardon of a bail of 100 million. And after that, they adjourned the case. They panic. The people don't know or what's going on. We need to know what's transpired between the lawyers and all these politicians that are losing our money. Because I'm always enough. I post there.
Okay, Adeomi.
Thank you.
Okay. The network was getting a bit messy there, but I don't know. Do you guys work with politicians? Because people are always concerned about politicians and all of that.
Well, pro bono services can be extended to politicians if they can prove that they qualify, because we do what we call a means test. The means test is the test where we able to know whether you can actually not pay for legal services, because it will be a waste of services for us to provide free legal services to people who can afford to pay legal services. So if the politician is such that he cannot meet up with the means test, or we see that he cannot pay, well, why shouldn't he have legal representation? Every person is entitled to legal representation. Like my Lord Justice, I would always say that God has given us 2 ears so that we can hear from both sides. So even if you think this person is the worst criminal or he has done anything wrong, he deserves his day in court. So, but to say politicians categorically, if they pass the means test, if we see that they cannot afford the services of a legal
and I think that the litmus test is your income, right?
Yes,
like
it's your income.
I mean,
your annual income.
So
That's what the means test is about.
I think what he's trying to say is like some of these politicians that loot and stuff like that. I mean, I don't even know.
Well, I agree that there is corruption in the justice sector. We can't take that away. For instance, some weeks ago we read about the report by UNODC on the corruption index in Nigeria. And we saw that judiciary, but that was also not far-fetched. That report was for 2023. 2023 was an election year, so a lot of things happened. So there is corruption in the system, but that does not mean that anybody who deserves but I think this is, outside of the context of what we are discussing, but it's important to point out that, yes, what we are doing with digitizing the court systems also speaks to solving the issues of corruption within the system.
Okay, that's very, very key. I hope you got that, Adeomi, because you seem to be curious on that, and I don't, he rightly answered. Let's just leave it at that. Hello?
Barrister.
Yes?
Like Wadume, who will kidnap people in Taraba State. a gallant officer was killed because of him. The same you people lawyers stand for him. Efan has been tormenting people for years. A lot of people become widower. And you people stand for them. Is it pro bono or they pay for the service? I'm talking about kidnapper, bandits. Look at it now. All those who are killing people, who are making life miserable for people in the north.
But Adewumi, if you follow the conversation, you would have heard him mention the group of people that they have been working with and they've worked with so far. And I don't think he's mentioned that.
I agree with you that they have positive and negative. But I'm asking, out of all the lawyers that he's talking about, there must be good and bad ones. Sorry to use that. But all those who are standing for those who kidnap people, do they deserve to get somebody who will stand for them? Not allegedly. We know what you mean. You know Swat, you remember. He was sentenced to, 2 years and a half. Courtesy of what? He's your lawyer. So are you telling me that he got that judgment to pro bono or he paid for the service? Thank you. That's what I want the lawyer to clear for me.
So Daniel, I will just start by saying, well, I'm not their lawyer, so I wouldn't know if they were paid or they were not paid for those services, right? So if they were paid or they were not paid, it's purely at what their conversation was. But there is a principle in law, which is one of the rules that guide legal practitioners in the rules of professional conduct, is the cab rank rule, which is whereas anybody has come to you and he has brought his case, even if it's the worst of criminals, you owe a duty to provide that service unless it is not within your area of specialization, your area of interest, or you have a conflict of interest which you must declare. So even the worst of criminals deserve their day in court. Yeah. Even the worst of criminals deserve to have a legal representation. But now the question is, as a lawyer, what does the law suppose you to do? What does the law expect you to do? The law does not expect you as a lawyer to go to court and say, oh, the person who is guilty is not guilty. The principle is that you are innocent rather until proven guilty, right? And the principle again for crime is that the gauge for measuring guilt is proof beyond reasonable doubt. So what you're doing as a legal presentation is to make sure that the prosecutor does his job of proving beyond reasonable doubt. You are not going to tell the court, oh, this guy has not done this. Oh, this guy has done this. That's not your responsibility. Provide every human being until he is proven guilty deserves legal representation, to be honest.
All right. Someone else is here. Hello? Hello? Okay, I think we have... Hold on. Okay, we can hear you. Hello?
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Swat.
Welcome.
This is Rabang. I think what I do, Midan, is trying to ask is that somebody the person don't kill people. You say the worst criminal still deserve judgment. How can a worst criminal that kill people, dispatch many lives to untimely grave, say still have right to they bring those type of people to court, they supposed to just judge them and sentence them to life imprisonment or die by hanging. Many of these Boko Haram and this thing, they kill many family, destroy many homes, and they will come back and say they repent.
Okay, but that's not even our focus. I don't even think that's our focus this afternoon.
No, but let's even think that. So let me just ask you this, right? You said he should be judged, right? What is the process of that judging? The process of that judging means that there should be somebody speaking for him in court and the person speaking for the victim, right? Justice is a three-way traffic. It's justice to the state, justice to the defendant, and justice to the victim as well. So we are not saying that people who are guilty should be let to go free, but it is safer that 100, people who we assume to be thieves go free than we send an innocent man we will send an innocent man to his early grave. So, for instance, if as a child you've ever been accused of messing up the air when you've not been the one, you would actually understand that feeling. And that is the exact feeling you get when you're accused of doing what you've not done, right? So, for instance, the cases we are taking up in our project are also not, we're looking at petty offenders.
Yeah.
People who have been arrested for pushing wheelbarrow. People who have been arrested for standing on the streets. People who have been arrested for what is called wandering.
Yes.
And loitering.
Loitering around.
People, there are a lot of these people, and that is our focus in our project. But the point is that the basic principle of law, which makes the world move faster, move well, is that everybody should deserve their day in court. If someone says you took my money, it's good for you to call that person to say, did you really take this money? If someone says, I slapped you, you should call me to ask me whether I slapped you. I mean, God gave us 2 ears so that we can hear from both sides.
Exactly. Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Let me see some of the comments on our Facebook page. Like I told you, we're streaming live. You can join us. Please, can you come down to Bida prison, which is located in Niger? Abdullah watching from Bida. That's what he's saying. Do you have that in Bida at all?
Well, we are in Suleja, right? And but we are looking for we are looking to expanding, of course, and when that happens, I'm sure we would have that into consideration. But with the work we are doing in Suleja, because you know Suleja houses detainees who were sent from FCT, so that's why we are in Suleja. At the moment, we are in 6 states, and like we said, we can't take all at once. But with everybody's support, with more funding, we should be able to move around to the 36 states of the Federation.
All right. Elaine said, good afternoon, Barrister Swat and the barrister guest. I never knew that services of lawyers are expensive until I had a case of my neighbor concerning land boundary. He took me to Magistrate Court, Armac Estate, Airport Road. The first sitting, I paid my lawyer 20K. He too paid his own lawyer same. Another day of sitting, my lawyer gave me discount while his own refused and didn't show up in the court. The judge then asked him to meet me for us to discuss before next sitting. One day at night, he knocked on my gate and my brother opened gate for him. He entered and ordered me to buy drink for him, which I did. He now went to plead with me that we should settle out of court. I laughed, but we later agreed to leave at peace and tell the court that we are now fine with each other. This is how each of us learn in a hard way. With this, I now know that lawyers are cashing out on Nigerians. Well done. If you say they are cashing out, they'll go and do the job now.
Well, I mean, 20,000 is cheap.
That's very cheap.
Just to be honest. And even that, if that lawyer is reported to the MBA committees, they may not take it lightly because there is a remuneration order which stipulates how much a lawyer should charge for every service. So I wish to say that maybe that lawyer even did that work pro bono. I look at it as some form of pro bono because what he took was just his transportation cost. So actually, legal service globally are expensive.
It's very expensive.
Legal services are very expensive. And you know, unlike health, when people have health insurance, how many people want to seek the services of a lawyer to retain them?
Indeed.
Because retainership is one good way of, running out from that. But it's expensive, and that is why we are encouraging more lawyers to volunteer to do pro bono services.
All right. Also, Francis Namani is watching from Amaguze in Enugu State. Good afternoon, Swat and the guests in the studio. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Great job, says Mr. Sam, watching from Kefi. And then Titus Ezekiel said, good job. Titus Ezekiel watching live from Akure. So we have viewership from all across. And that's it. All right. 0700 951 0000 and 08095974869. You can send your messages there. And yes, you can also just call those numbers as we begin to round up on the conversation. So we said a whole lot about what you guys at PPDC are doing, what you've done so far. I mean, looking forward now, what's the next phase? What are you looking at achieving with this, I think, very magnificent and beautiful project that you're on?
Our target is to provide legal services to 1,750 detainees, Nigerians, a year for the next 2-3 years. Basically, on the ROPDN project. On our CSCM project, we're looking at expanding to more states so that more states can have a feel of what the digitization process is all about. It's not just the courts that are being digitized. There is also the entire case management system with the ministries of justice so that your files will no longer be missing. There is also the entire things about case notifications, notifying people of what dates and times their cases are to go on in courts and all of that. So we are looking on that one to expand to 3 other states before the end of the year, hoping to move to other zones in Nigeria because we've often been accused of being in the north alone. So we're moving, we're hoping to move down south, and we're really appreciative of our donors and looking out to more donors if we're able to get more people to get on to support us. But really, the next phase of what we are doing in terms of pro bono is that we are participating. We'll participate in the next MBA General Conference with a view to having a stand where lawyers can come in and register to provide pro bono services. Our goal is that at least in every state in Nigeria, we should have lawyers who are willing to provide services when we call on them.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you so much to you, Kenechukwu Agwu of the Public-Private Development Center. I guess you're heading that unit?
Yes, I'm actually the Senior Programs Manager, Access to Justice.
Okay, Senior Programs Manager. You guys are doing an amazing job, and thank you for what you're doing. We hope it keeps growing. And if there are any developments, of course, I'm sure we'll get to talk about that. So that's been it on this conversation on pro bono access to justice, as is being led by the PPDC with Kenechukwu Agwu, giving us details and helping us to see the scope of work they've done, and also projections for the future as it keeps getting better and better. Okay, what does one do when a barrister embezzles clients' fund? Okay, that's not what we're talking about today, please. You guys, let's
we can have more time for that conversation.
Okay, yes, we can have, questions about anything that has to do with law and stuff, but we're speaking specifically to what the PPDC is doing with regards to access to justice and the pro bono services they're giving. So it's not a forum where you ask some of those questions that you guys are putting across. But thank you for coming over.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Agwu. I appreciate. Thank you. So maybe next time again, if there's anything, I'm sure we'll see you again.
Very much available.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mercy.
Have a great day.
Yes, Mercy did not talk today, but she's also at the forefront of that. And all of you at PPDC, we thank you for what you're doing. We'll take a quick break and then we will be right back. The sunny side is still on. Don't go anywhere.
Hi everyone, my name is Swat. That's the name my father gave me, but you can always call me Her Vocal Majesty. I'm the host of The Sunny Side on 95.1 Nigeria Info. It takes place every weekday, noon to 3 p.m., where we get to have all the lovely contemporary conversations. If your days are normally long and gloomy, well, not anymore, because I'm here to make it all bright and sunny for you. So join me. It's an invitation. You don't want to miss out.
This is Nigeria Info.